I've been contemplating this question lately, and I wanted to share some of my contemplations. So, Abraham Hicks talks about how there's no assertion, and this is something that I've kind of had trouble with because to understand this is really like taking a huge chunk of the ego and just throwing it away. And of course, whenever we do that, we just open to love and bliss and understanding and, love. But who wants to do that, right? But, we really like to hold on to our ideas of evil. So, saying that nobody can inflict any harm on us makes us take some sort of responsibility and also let go of what we find vulnerable and what we find ourselves to be. So it really goes to the heart of the ego really quickly. And so I think that even in spirituality, especially in spirituality, a lot of us were taught that there are influences. And so this is kind of like the superstition of how some Christians believe that if you spend your time around the wrong friends or the wrong people, that they're going to be a bad influence on you. This is kind of how I was raised, the thinking with which I was raised and tried to rebel against. But the same thing happens like with people who are environmentalists, thinking not wanting to hang out with people who are enjoy driving four-wheel drives or sports cars or whatever, and all kinds of ways in which we identify ourselves and sort of demonize something else. And so it seems like every single group of people has some other type of people that they like to demonize. So can we be influenced by people? Are we just like a product of things, or is something deeper going on there? So when you go to awareness and we go to source, there are not two sources. And so influence, inflowing, and this has like astronomy, this word has astronomy based roots again. But like in the flow of things, there's one source, there's one awareness, there's not two. And so when we believe there's two, it's as if we're standing downstream and there are obstructions somewhere upstream, but we turn it into separate streams. And so we call those separate sources. And so we name one good and we name one bad, and this is how we create duality. And we're just standing from a place where we cannot see the obstructions that seemingly separate what was the same, what was one. So there's no, like I've said in my other video, there's no source of darkness. And so there's no bad influences for us. Now, of course, we make preferences about who we want to spend time with and things like this. But there's no boogeyman under the bed. There's no bad spirits in the room. There's nothing that can happen to you without you attracting it in your experience. And so this is what Abraham Hicks talks about, that there's no assertion, there's only attraction. And of course, we live in a universe of no exclusion. So you can explain this to people in ways that they will let it filter into their minds, but really this goes into the depths of the shadow, the depths of the ego, the root, the deepest roots of your fears, and makes you realize in a way that you're not responsible for them, but you are able to respond to them. And so as you connect into intuition, it feels as if there's this sort of like intelligence and knowing, and there's this kind of like security beyond all ideas of security. There's a security in insecurity. And Jesus is telling his disciples, don't worry, look at these lilies. They just, sit out in the open in the field and grow beautifully. They don't worry about how well they're clothed and all these things. And one of the sayings of Jesus that has suddenly made a lot of sense to me is you don't pour new wine into old wineskins. So with the understanding that we're consciousness, with the understanding that our conception and our birth was conceived as thought, and that those two words mean the same thing for good reason, that was not accidental. Just like nothing accidental can happen to us, that was not perfectly meant to be. And so when you really look at these spheres and you see that there's no reason to uphold them any longer, it can all of a sudden things that you were suppressing can bubble up, and all of a sudden this sort of amazing security and knowing that you have no reason left to not go for your dreams and not just enjoy every minute of doing it. There's no reason left whatsoever. There's no excuse left whatsoever, because there's one source, there's one influence you can be under, and everything else is just a wrong label that you've stuck on there to convince yourself to stay influenced by the small stream that you deemed all right and cut off the greater power that was there for you.